Hello and welcome to CTV News Across Canada for Wednesday, June 25th. We've got the top local stories from coast to coast, stories that affect you and the country. Thanks for joining us.
The UCP government says it wants Albertans to decide the province's future, not Ottawa. Today, the Premier revealed more details about her Alberta Next panel. CTV's Nahreman Issa joins us now. Nahreman, what does Danielle Smith hope to accomplish with the Alberta Next panel?
Well, Jeff, Danielle Smith and her government hope this panel will give them a better idea of how Albertans are feeling. That includes recommendations on potential referendum questions for Albertans to vote on next year. It will also challenge what Smith calls unfair intrusions from the federal government.
Ottawa has been interfering in every aspect of our provincial jurisdiction in deeper and deeper ways for about a decade now, and we've had enough of it.
The panel will be chaired by the Premier and include more than a dozen members, such as UCP MLAs, along with business and community leaders and experts. They will gather feedback on topics such as the Alberta Pension Plan, a provincial police service, equalization payments, and Alberta separation. Smith says this panel is a message to Prime Minister Mark Carney and his government.
I hope he takes the separatist sentiment as seriously as I do. It's no joke, and it's the highest I've ever seen it. And the reason for it is because of bad policies in Ottawa. And as I mentioned, they could solve this. They could solve this by having a mea culpa moment, like they did when they repealed the carbon tax.
One Alberta political scientist calls this a revised version of Jason Kenney's Fair Deal panel from 5 years ago. Lori Williams doesn't believe the results will be substantially different. She does believe it could ramp up separation talks.
The more you focus on the dissatisfaction with Confederation, the harder it is to quell those more separatist, those more hardline views within the province. It could actually increase both support for separatism and opposition to her own government for not going far enough.
Now, over the next 4 months, the Alberta Next panel will gather input from Albertans at town halls, along with a survey. The panel's recommendations will be submitted to the province at the end of the year. Jeff.
All right, Nahreman, thank you.
Tara Sawyer and the United Conservative Party has held on to the rural riding of Old Didsbury Three Hills with 61% of the vote.
Oh, I'm just very happy that Tara has won it.
The NDP finished with 20%, beating both the Republican Party of Alberta and the Wildrose Loyalty Coalition.
I have never, ever voted NDP, but I just felt this time that we needed a change.
Many were curious if the Republican Party, which focused on Alberta's secession, would receive more votes in an area that elected a separatist MLA, Gordon Kessler, in 1982. And it comes at a time when discontent with Ottawa is high in Alberta.
The results of this by-election in Old Didsbury Three Hills could not be more disastrous for the Republican Party of Alberta. To have come in third behind the NDP is not something that even their most ardent supporters could ever have imagined, and I would expect them to go off into the wilderness at this point.
However, candidate Cameron Davies sees the 18% of votes as the foundation to build support.
It took a step of courage for people to step away from their traditional voting habits and patterns and say, you know what, the status quo isn't working. And my message to them is we're still here, we're still fighting, we're not going away anytime soon. This is just the beginning.
The Premier hopes to quell the separatist movement and Conservative vote splitting with a stronger relationship with Mark Carney's government.
The sentiment that you're seeing was created in Ottawa by 10 years of terrible policy. And I think it can also be dialed down by Ottawa by undoing 10 years of terrible policy and allowing us to get back to investing and allowing us to be able to chart our own course as a province in our areas of jurisdiction. So I think that the jury is very much still out on the future of that movement, but I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to address these concerns so that sentiment subsides.
Jacqueline Wilson, CTV News, Didsbury.
It's very much a work in progress, a tangle of fences and construction workers on the edge of Lake Ontario. But unveiling new renderings of a revamped Ontario Place, the Premier is dreaming big.
Enjoy stunning beaches and wetlands, canoeing, boating, kayaking along our beautiful waters, and taking in concerts, markets, and festivals. This is going to be spectacular.
The complex includes 50 acres of public space, including trails, marinas, and beaches. There's a year-round concert venue, the controversial private spa and water park, and new plans for a 3,500-spot, 5-story parking garage on the edge of Lake Ontario. Doug Ford insists it will be blended into the environment.
Well, it's going to be beautiful. We're going to have a berm at the front. You'll barely even see a parking lot.
With plans to add a fountain, some Instagrammable signs.
You watch, it's going to be probably the #1 place where people will take pictures.
The bill, $400 million, but Ford insists it will generate $60 million a year for the province.
That will be going right into Ontario coffers to pay for health care, education, infrastructure.
His goal here is to make money off the backs of the people of Ontario to access their own parkland.
While there had been talk about moving the lot across the street, the Premier says this location is more convenient.
It's going to block views of this project from the lakeshore and from the city and sort of cut it off.
Guaranteed parking, a contractual agreement with Therma Canada, the company building the spa at Ontario Place. A spokesperson says now there's parking scattered all over.
All this is a way of consolidating them to create more space for green parks and beaches and free places for people to visit.
Therma's updated plans will be released next month. This master plan doesn't include imaginings of the new science centre planned for Ontario Place, a year after its home at Don Mills in Eglinton was abruptly closed.
We're in the market to find the appropriate builder for the Science Centre currently right now today. We anticipate to have results in the fall.
The government has insisted the Science Centre will have more exhibit space, even though the footprint will be half the size. We didn't get an answer today about when and where a promised temporary home for the Science Centre might be coming. It will be 2029. That's the target date anyway for the Ontario Place redevelopment to be totally complete. Reporting live, I'm Siobhan Morris. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan.
Over at the side of the device, there's an SOS kind of flap. So you lift up the flap and you press and hold the button inside.
Allison Flynn sent that signal for help late Saturday night. This GPS and satellite communication device, a lifeline after a harrowing ordeal.
The moment the rescuers arrived, they called out from the water, and that sound was, that was a magical sound. Them arriving to us.
Flynn was camping on an island in a remote part of Algonquin Park with her 13-year-old son when a storm rolled in.
All of a sudden, the wind really picked up. The tent was moving sideways. We felt things. I had actually gotten up to hold up the side of the tent because things were starting to hit the side of the tent. And then all of a sudden, the tree came down.
Her son was seriously injured.
Got him out from under the tree and just started assessing him right away. So he was very briefly unconscious, but he, woke up and started making jokes. And I thought, okay, step one, we are all right at this point.
The SOS signal reaching first responders who embarked on an exhausting 25-kilometer trek through fallen trees using chainsaws to cut a path. Then canoed to reach the pair. It took hours.
In these conditions that they were working with, it is stunning that they managed to get to us so quickly.
Being prepared with essentials like a headlamp and first aid kit, she says, crucial. She also credits wilderness first aid courses with Boreal River Rescue.
For us, a lot of it is ensuring that our participants leave the course with a good understanding of risk and good decision making. As you can imagine, there's lots of different things that can happen in the backcountry and medical situations we might encounter. So the hands-on nature in those scenarios we find really help prepare students for real life situations.
Once the storm cleared, the boy was taken out by float plane, then airlifted by Orange to Chio.
This was next level in terms of supporting us, and I'm so thankful to them for what they were able to do.
Her son now recovering.
Given what happened, we didn't think that this would even be a potential outcome, but it looks like he's going to heal really well, and he's in good spirits.
Camping is such a big part of their lives. Allison says she can't imagine not going again, but after this, it may take a while. She says for them, though, being outdoors is healing. Patricia.
Well, I imagine there might be a few more people signing up for those courses as well. Really incredible. Katie, thank you.
It's a shocking
but increasingly familiar sight.
You see stuff like this at, huge stores, but in cities. But for Stratford, I was surprised at the very first one.
Mass thieves smashing and grabbing at a mall jewelry store.
The Stratford police started to receive multiple 911 calls regarding a robbery in progress at the Paris Jewelers located at the Stratford Mall.
Witnesses on scene taking these images, including the car reported stolen from Peel Region earlier that day.
The 4 suspects fled from the mall in a vehicle, which was located by police and pursued out of the city of Stratford. The pursuit was terminated due to public safety.
Stratford police say Waterloo Region police also spotted the vehicle but had to abandon their pursuit.
Obviously, there's a huge safety risk factor with a crime like this. There's violence being used, weapons being used. The psychological impact, not only for the employees, but for the other individuals, pedestrians using the mall.
The robbery this Sunday, the third smash and grab at this store in the last year and a half. This video taken during a robbery in January of last year.
So they're picking spots that are easy to get to and easy to get away from.
Former OPP Commissioner Chris Lewis says the store location in the mall and the mall's proximity to the highway are likely contributing factors.
Scouting these things out. They don't want to go out right into the middle of a mall running around, their faces covered, carrying baseball bats or hammers or whatever they're using.
Arrests have been made in one of the previous robberies. According to Lewis, police will need to make more arrests to deter others.
There's been arrests made. And so who knows the impact that will have inevitably in the future of these, and that some will tell on each other and some will be inspired to not do it anymore, but time will tell.
No one injured in the latest robbery, and police did not say how much jewelry was stolen. Anyone with information is asked to contact Stratford Police. Jeff Pickle, CTV News, Stratford.
Pet owners inside 2 community housing buildings on Warncliffe Road North in London are concerned. At least 2 pets contracted parvovirus last month and had to be euthanized.
I'm a little bit more worried, but my plan is to get Dane vaccinated very soon.
Dane is among roughly 100 dogs living inside the 2 buildings that are managed by London and Middlesex Community Housing.
Is so concerning. There is a large number of dogs in the building. Most of them are unvaccinated. The potential for this to spread is huge.
Local charity Progressive Animal Welfare Services is urging action to prevent further spread.
Ultimately, we're looking at about $250 to get your dog vaccinated. This being a low-income household area makes that inaccessible to the majority of the residents.
Parvovirus is a highly infectious disease that spreads easily from dog to dog with symptoms including vomiting and diarrhea. If left untreated, it can be fatal. In January, an outbreak in Windsor killed 25 dogs.
The issue is that we really need someone to come on site to do the vaccinations. Transporting all these people and their possibly infected pets in a vehicle to another vet to potentially infect that clinic is not a great plan.
In the meantime, London and Middlesex Community Housing has posted notices in common areas and on every floor of the 2 buildings, urging tenants to take precautions.
Things we need to do treatment outside on the pavement, in the hallways. So it's sort of a pretty much, if we read the material, they want us to bleach the site. We know that's not practical, so we're trying to figure out how do we respond to this.
Armstrong said she's working with local vets to coordinate on-site vaccinations as time remains critical. Rita Ismail, CTV News.
You sure you didn't skip any steps? He's known for making people laugh, but today some of his fans are left fuming.
I'm sure a lot of people are frustrated.
I guess that's it. Comedian Matt Refe was supposed to take center stage at a comedy festival in Halifax in 2 months' time. But today, ticket buyers were told Refe would be a no-show, putting fans in a frenzy, scrambling for answers.
You know, you spend a lot of money on these tickets, and if the artist or whoever cancels, you know, you could lose quite a bit of money.
It would have been the double date of a lifetime for Richards, who bought tickets for his fiancée, sister, and her boyfriend.
We spent little over $1,300 for a table section and admission.
In an email sent to customers, the Great Outdoor Comedy Festival offering an extra night of comedy to Matt Rife ticket holders, explaining, due to a shift in his filming schedule, Matt Rife's Halifax shows have been rescheduled to 2026. We know this isn't the news you were hoping for, and we're just as disappointed.
That's the nature of the business. If we were talking about the music industry, somebody gets a sore throat, somebody gets sick, they can't perform. That's the way that it goes. And when you're dealing with actors and when you're dealing with people like comedians, they get a movie gig, and next thing you know, they're not available. It happens. It's part of the risk.
CTV requested an interview with festival organizers, but were only given a news release about the offer to customers. As for Richards, he says he was told he has until the 29th to obtain a partial refund, but with hotel and other accommodations already booked, Richards says that does very little to soften the blow.
I get they offered it for next August, but a lot of people made plans around this August.
As for whether or not this cancellation will leave a bad taste in the mouths of Rife's fans, Lander says it depends on if it's a one-off or a pattern.
Madonna has had a reputation for 40 years for not being on time. Her fans forgive her because eventually they come to realize that when they say the concert's at 9 o'clock, it really means 11. If they give a reason, but it turns out it's actually a different reason, the truth will ultimately out. Then that's when fans start to maybe get a little frustrated.
Surrey's Robin Janjua was just 14 years old when he was targeted by someone posing online as a teenage girl. He was tricked into sending explicit images of himself over Instagram, then blackmailed for money. He later died by suicide. More than 2 years later, Nigerian authorities have sentenced Oluke Olalekan to 76 years in prison, convicted of 18 charges involving child pornography, money laundering, and attempted extortion. The RCMP worked with multiple foreign agencies in the Sextortion case, a crime officials say is on the rise.
This is something we see more frequently in the last year.
According to the Canadian Centre for Child Protection, teenage boys are a prime target.
We're receiving right now approximately 6 of these a day. And actually, as early as this week, we've noticed that we're receiving a new spike in sextortion cases that are happening.
And she says most cases go unreported. 3 years ago, a Dutch man was sentenced for sextorting a BC teen girl who also died by suicide. But bringing offenders to justice can be challenging, with many operating overseas.
We have agreements with some of the countries to help us with locating those offenders, but some we just can't go. So locating and arresting those offenders is pretty hard.
Another growing concern, criminals using artificial intelligence.
They are utilizing AI-generated types of applications to say, hey, I have this image of you. It's a nude image of you. If you do not comply with my demands, pay money, I will take this image and I will share it with all of your friends, all of your family.
Police say education and awareness are the best defense and urge parents to have open, difficult conversations with their children. And if they are targeted,
if you don't give the money, they'll go on to another target. They're looking for easy targets. So if you give them money, they're not going to stop. They're going to ask you again and again for more money.
The Canadian Centre for Child Protection is also calling for stronger regulations and wants tech companies to do more to stop offenders. Kevin Chirac, CTV News.
In a report going to Leamington Council, staff are recommending a $115,000 investment in new AI-powered surveillance cameras. If approved, the contract would be awarded to Empire Communications of Oldcastle, with the system installed at several key locations, including the Marina, Amphitheatre, Mercia Park, the Pride Crosswalk, and the OPP station.
Well, unfortunately, it's something I think is needed.
I think that's the best thing to do because the crime is so heavy now, and you're not safe, you know.
The cameras won't just record, they'll also use artificial intelligence to help police and staff quickly search video footage for specific people, vehicles, or behaviors.
I'm 68 years old, and go walking at night, I don't feel safe. I don't.
This is just one part of a broader safety strategy for the waterfront area.
But it's money well spent, and it's good to see they're taking those measures to make everything better for everybody around here.
In a media release, the municipality says it's implementing new signage, increased police patrols, and parking restrictions from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., along with enforcement under the Trespass to Property Act.
We've had issues down at the waterfront with speeding, with people, squealing their tires and things that were disruptive and sometimes not safe to the residents that live down there.
Mayor Hilda McDonald says it's about quality of life for residents near the waterfront.
It needs to be safe, and we're doing our due diligence by trying to take care of the folks that want to enjoy life down at the waterfront. And if that means cameras and other security measures, it has to be done.
Loitering, destruction, some damaging of property, and this just adds another level of, keeping our communities clean and safe for everyone.
Council already allocated partial funding in its 2025 capital budget, but the scope of the project has since expanded to include more sites. The remaining cost is expected to come from the IT Reserve Fund.
We want to keep our communities safe and enjoyable.
And I think if people know they're there, they will think twice.
If approved, the system could be up and running later this year, hopefully just in time for the height of the summer season here down by the waterfront. Now, Council meets this evening. We will be following this story to bring you the latest details. Ricardo?
Okay, Chris, yeah, certainly people can get carried away down by the marina. We'll see if this works out. That's CTV's Chris Campbell tonight.
Simply bogus. The NDP opposition has obtained SAS Build contract data through a Freedom of Information request.
Of the 666 contracts awarded in 24-25, only 51% went to companies actually headquartered in Saskatchewan, and only 58% of those contract dollars flowed through to true Saskatchewan-based businesses.
Earlier this year, the government claimed that 90% of contracts go to Saskatchewan companies. The province defines a Saskatchewan company as one having a permanent place of business in the province, employing Saskatchewan people and registered in the province. The NDP think it should be based on where the company is headquartered.
Combined with today's revelations, it's evident. This is a government that was never serious about supporting Saskatchewan workers and businesses. In fact, it betrayed them. This policy was bogus. It was for show.
The government says that under the NDP definition, companies like Everest Steel would not be considered Saskatchewan firms. It employs hundreds of workers at its Regina plant, but is headquartered in Chicago. The NDP say it considers Everest to be a Saskatchewan firm and that some companies need to be assessed on a case-by-case basis. Wayne Mantika, CTV News, Regina.
Youth soccer teams in St. Andrews are getting kicked off their pitches, and the association says they have no field to land on.
Just kind of mind-blowing.
Since 2009, the St. Andrews Soccer Association has been allowed to host games for kids at this location, in the middle of the local airport. But in March, the airport, which is owned by the RM, said it needs the space to expand and told the association 2026 would be the last season it could use the fields for soccer and their 320 players.
To receive the boot because of politics between the airport and the RM, just not right.
In a statement, the airport says it's the 9th busiest in Canada and needs the expansion for aviation purposes, adding the area is not zoned for recreation and soccer was always a temporary use. The decision was made to delay the development of that area for 2 years to allow ample time for soccer to find a new home. The Soccer Association is calling on St. Andrews Council to help them because it claims the RM failed to move ahead with plans to build public soccer fields.
We need a permanent solution, or at the bare minimum, an extension of our airport lease so that we have certainty going into next season that we're not going off a cliff and community soccer will be dying in St. Andrews.
But Mayor Joyce Sewell says there is a solution. A private business is spending more than $4 million on soccer fields nearby, and there is a deal in place for public access once they open.
Council ensured that there is in the lease agreement with them that 20% of the time be allowed for residents of St. Andrews. And we fully support the kids.
The association says that's not enough to meet their demands.
It's also a business. They run programming the same times as us over the same season. You physically cannot have two soccer games happening on the same pitches at the same time.